Hey, what's up, guys? Okay, so we are back at it like a bad habit, baby. We are actually not doing enough, honestly, but whatever. I'm still doing, so you know, it counts for something, right? We have made at least like I feel like the progress has been solid. It's been not necessarily as fast as I want it to be, but like I feel like we didn't really waste a lot of ground. You know what I mean? I feel like we went in the right direction, and I really do hope that we are. That's my main focus, is going in the right direction. It's like your destination is 100 miles away. If you just like hurry up and start, and let's just say the destination is straight ahead, but you don't know that. You know it's like generally in this area. If you just like pick a direction, say you go this way, you go like 10 miles. You might have went real fast. But if you take your time and get aligned, perfectly with where you're, most certain that's a destination is going to be, the goal, and you only go 5 miles, you're actually closer than, you know what I'm saying? You're actually closer than if you had went 10 miles. And not only that, but you never wasted energy because you were always going in the right direction. That makes sense. So hopefully that's where I'm at with this. I feel like I've been going in the right direction. So I don't know why it's way down here, but anyway. So we're still working on client refactor. The beginning. Let's set our timer. I forgot to set the timer. So we're gonna get it up to, let's just say, we'll say 65, because I'm sure I've done like 3 minutes so far. So yeah, we'll do 65. All right, there we go. So we converted our pickle to JSON. We're now using JSON, and yeah, so we're just like we got the ball rolling with this, and yeah, so let's get it done. Let's smash this hour. Probably would just do the 1 hour and then move along, you know what I mean? We converted our pickle to JSON. We're now using JSON, and yeah, so we're just like we got the ball rolling with this, and yeah, so let's get it done. Let's smash this out. Okay, yeah, there he is. There he is. Okay, where are we at here? Save file path, OS path, join. So next we want to load in game from JSON save file, and we do that by opening the save file path, passing in R for read as save file, and this accesses the save file to load the JSON dictionary. Yeah, because I'm pretty sure you have to load in all the data from JSON. You can't like pick and choose. So anyway, save data at JSON equals JSON load save file. All right. Now I'm asking, do we have to continue to operate within the context manager? That I would think no, because like, well, if this is a pointer, then maybe yes, because once we're done with this context at this indent level, save data would be, that file would be closed. Therefore, that data would equal, I don't know what it would equal in that case, but I guess we'll just leave it like this and find out, because this is how I would like to try it. So I'll just let it throw the error and fix it, reveal my error if it exists naturally. So we have game ID equals save data at game ID, which grabs a dig val from JSON save file for game ID key. This is very simple stuff here. Why I did that? Silly. Okay, so then we say if game ID is equal to none, it means we don't have a game ID saved to save file. Therefore, this means it isn't a reconnect. Right. So if game ID is equal to none, we don't have game ID saved. to the save file, therefore means it isn't a reconnect. Right? So in that case, we do P1 game multiple choice function, P1 game start new game. And then either if game ID is not equal to none, which we could just do else. But it's fine. Either if game ID is not equal to none means client can start new game or reconnect to previously started game. So then we do P1 game multiple choice function, passing a P1 game, reconnect to game, and start a game. So we have the second option there to reconnect to game. And then they're going to make their choice, and it's going to be equal to start new game. But where is draw window main going to be called? You know what I'm saying? Where is draw window main? Okay, yeah, there it is. Draws window with updated info. Okay. So this is in the main while loop. Way down at the bottom. But we need... Okay, so yeah, this is actually... Okay, so then we have the while true main while loop. So this is before that. Yeah, so this is a question here. This is a valid question as to whether or not, like, how do we get the draw window function called? Because there is a need for the window to be drawn, and that, get rid of this. That. So yeah, right here, this inherently doesn't call draw window main. What we could do I'm just kind of confused, actually. I'm thinking about this. How does that exactly work whenever we have them making a choice and there's a blocking while loop? How do they still... Like, how does the screen continue to update? Or if it's drawn, and this is kind of like a basic question, but I mean, I know that, I mean, obviously the game works whenever they make multiple choices when this function is called. And it's the same thing with, like, choose multiple cards. There's a while loop that blocks, and there's only one thread on the client side So I'm just wondering, like, how exactly does that work? How does the while loop block but still allow for draw window main to work? Is draw window main called within that context of the while loop? I don't think it is. I mean, so here's client, and this is the one place where it's called. This is what draws the window. This is like essential. I feel like I thought that if you called draw window main, you had to keep calling it for it to keep the screen alive. You know what I mean? But I don't know. That's not actually true, is it? So in client, this is the same one. This is the non-refactor file, and now we have where draw window main is defined. Okay, and then we have it in location, and we redraw because the information is updated in all these various locations. So all this stuff would result in draw window main being called, and then server is not going to happen. So that's literally it. So then that means okay, so that answers the question basically. It doesn't actually have to be called again. We can simply call it one time, so it doesn't have to be called within the context of the while loop, if you follow what I'm saying. Yeah, it has to be, let's see. But I mean, this is updated information, and we do need it to display that information. So pretty much like what? How do you get it to display the, how do you, I'm actually at a loss right now. I'm like, wait a second. If we normally, how does this work in the game itself? Let me run. God, this is I feel like an idiot because this is such a basic question, but okay, because, well, no, it's not going to update. It's not going to update the information until draw window main gets called again, right? Which means like this has to get set. This multiple choice option has to be set before we render this. We can render it on the screen. And if this gets rendered, I mean, if this gets changed right before a while loop starts and there's only one thread, how does draw window main get called again to have that updated information? Because draw window main, like, I'm 99% certain that draw window main it has to go off of like the data that it has. So whenever we modify the multiple choice text, that is going to determine the display of the multiple choice rectangle and everything, which means it has to be called after the multiple choice text is set. So I must be overlooking something here. I mean, because it works, like in the game it works, but I'm kind of struggling to understand how it works, and I need to know how it works because, well, this is before the main while loop. We might have to have like a second while loop, maybe. I don't think we necessarily need a second while loop. We just need we need the screen to be drawn with this updated information. It's not really complicated. It's really simple. So we have this function that we call, which takes game 1, string 1, and string 2. Game 1 multiple choice text 1 gets set to string 1, and then it sets the multiple choice text 2 if it exists, sets multiple choice active equal to true, and then while game 1 multiple choice active is equal to true, it passes, so it enters into this while loop immediately. So let's see what happens when we do multiple choice text 1. Whenever we set this, I think this is also a calculated property, so let's look that one up. Alright, there it is. So what it does is it sets the multiple choice text 1 object with the val, which is the text. So I'm like, does this right here cause it to update visually? I didn't think that it did. You know what I mean? I didn't think. Maybe I'm just wrong. Maybe it actually does. Maybe this updates it. Like, makes it display on the screen. Let's ask Gemini real quick. Would this pygame command in and of itself cause the screen visually? Self-out render does not cause the screen to be updated visually. Surface. This method takes text and converts it into a new pygame service object. Service is essentially an image of the text. Services need to be blitted, right? To display. We don't blit here. We do draw, but this is for that is to erase the overlapping prior multiple choice text rect in the case that the new text display would be smaller, so it like erases that, you know, just like blank space and instead paints it to be the part of the background. So that in and of itself, I don't think would, unless that did it. So surface need to be blended. To display a surface on the screen, you need to use the blend method of the display surface, usually obtained with Pygame display.getSurface, or by creating a display surface with display set mode. Display needs to be updated after blending surfaces. You need to call Pygame display flip or Pygame display update to actually update the contents of the display. And that happens in draw window main. So this command right here happens in draw window main. So my question is, how does it get updated if it can't? Because we go from multiple choice function okay. And hold up, let me see something real quick. Let me just look in progression. So I'm trying to think of the process here. So in this case, this is on the server side. It calls the multiple choice function. It sets the multiple choice text, play selected cards, and then it's also going to end up calling that while loop, right? Yeah. So first it sets a multiple choice text. That is going to get transferred over the network from the server side to the client side. The client is going to receive that information and is going to process it before it does this. So I'm guessing it's just a speed thing, like but after this happens, it gets transferred over, and since it processes the data on the client side one object at a time, it receives each one and processes each one, and then draws the window after each data point is parsed. Is that why? Because technically it sets the multiple choice text 1, then it redraws the window, and then it receives and sets the multiple choice text, multiple choice active, which, oh, okay, I understand now. I understand. Okay. It's because of the client server nature. Because on the which I got it. I understand now. Okay, so here's the difference in how we used it previously versus how we're using it now. Whenever we would use multiple choice function, we would not use it on the client side. We would use it on the server side. So what was actually happening, that's why I was like, wait, how does it draw the screen when there's a while loop? I forgot a basic principle of a fact of the game is that this is called from the server side. So the server runs all these lines of code up to this point. That gets sent to the client side. Now the while loop gets executed on the server side from the perspective of the server. So the server's main thread is actually the one that gets caught up in this while loop. But if we were to call this function on the client side, since there's only one thread, that would be a problem, because in the other instance, the client is able to receive this data, parse this data, set its multiple choice active to true, and then it is not stuck in a while loop. It continues to draw its window. It's not being blocked. The main thread of the server side is being blocked. But if, like I said, if we call it from the client side, it will immediately block. So what we need to do here is, well, we want to have the, I think what we have to do is just have a if SS or CS is equal to CS type thing going on here. So we have to have different behavior based on whether or not it's being called from the client side or the server side. Very simple, very straightforward. Usually we would accomplish this with a variable that we call SS or CS, which is in, what file is it in? It is in change attribute list, right? Let's see. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so there it is. And SS or CS gets set every time that the now I done forgot. I know that it determines the behavior of certain things based on if they're on the, that's what it stands for, server side or client side. But where do we actually set it? I see that we're checking it here, but where do we set it? We set it. Okay, here we go. So we set it in, this is in client refactor. If name is equal to main, right? Okay, so if we're accessing client refactor, from the client side, if we call it from the client, then that means it's set to CS, as opposed to if we imported client but we're not executing the client file. So like if name is equal to main, that meant we're executing the client script, because this is the client script that this code is in. So if we were on the server side and we were dealing with all these files that are related to SS or CS that rely on it, it is default set to SS. Let's go check that. Well, it's actually default to none. Let's see, where is it set to SS? Because that's what I can't remember. Okay. Well, let me do it like this, equals. So this is SSJS equals none equals CS. And then this is client, so this is the same. We're working on a refactor. And then, okay, here we go. So if we run the server, the change attribute list is SS or SS or CS is equal to SS. And I know that this does work, but I just realized, maybe I'm wrong here, but I thought that, let's see, I thought that we would need to do an if name is equal to main check here as well. But we don't even import client anymore. But from client import client. Well, actually we do. We don't use that anymore. So we can actually get rid of this. Remember, we changed it to where we have the client is, we have a server client. We have a much smaller, more compact version of the client class on the server side, so we don't have to like import all the other stuff associated with the client that's useless for the purposes we're using it from this location for. Anyway, so whenever we run the server script, it sets it to server side, whether or not name is equal to main, but in this case it would be name is equal to main. The reason we don't actually have to put if name is equal to main to ensure that it only runs on the server side, I believe, is because we don't import server anywhere. See, we don't import server. We import a lot of things. We import client, and that was why we had to add, well, we did. We actually don't anymore. So, is it safe practice? Yeah, we probably still should, like, change that. So on server, we should probably put this within a if name is equal to main, so that only when you're running from the server script will you get SS or CS equal to SS. So I'm going to put a caution comment here. And I think for caution comments, yeah, we use this. 1, 2, 6, and the below line, and the date is 1/17/25, and we'll say realized that for safety purposes we should probably place this inside of an if is equal to main. And I want to say you have to ensure it's only run from SS. It's just an extra safety measure. But anyway, so now I understand why that is the way it is. We can close this file. We'll go back over here, and what we need to do is go to the what was it? Multiple choice function. Def multiple choice function. Why do we have so many of these? Okay, the multiple choice text 1 or multiple choice, etc., etc. So yeah, this we have to add a checker here. So since this is going to be called in the context of the client script, right? Because we have client, this gets set to CS, that's the first thing that happens, and then we import game and all that, which is what we're using. So whenever we later on execute this code here that we're dealing with right here, the multiple choice function, SS or CS will indeed equal CS. Because when we import game, and I know this is kind of complicated, but I'm pretty sure since we set this variable SS or CS before we import game, that means whenever game gets imported, well, I was gonna say it SS or CS gets set like within it, but it doesn't work like that. What actually happens is we would set SS or CS to CS here because it's being called from the client. Then when this game file function gets called, it is just getting executed in the context of this client file. So when we reference SS or CS, it should know what we're talking about. Or do we have to put global SS or CS as a reference inside of the function? That I'm not sure. Let me see. Global. I know we do it somewhere. So we do it here in global SS or CS. I'm having trouble remembering exactly how this process works as far as it being called within a function. So let me try to figure this out here. I'm struggling with this. SS or CS gets set here. Okay. Then we check if name is equal to main. We try, we while true, and then we eventually call a game function. And what we want is for this function to have a different behavior based on whatever this value is set to. So how does that function know what this value is? It would either have to be passed to it as argument, I don't think it would know intrinsically. You know what I mean? I could ask Gemini this, but I would like to think that it would throw an error. It would basically not know what that is. Game P1 game that is. Unless we did what we do, like unless we went to the game file and then we could import. See, this is import change attribute list, and this is the required import format to access actual SS or CS global variable. So we do that. We use this somewhere here. Okay, yeah, we check it all over. And since we modify it beforehand in client here, whenever we import game here, the game script will run in that context and it will import the change attribute list file, and that change attribute list file will have been modified at that point in time. So SS or CS, from its perspective, would already equal CS, if I'm understanding how this works. And I think that is how it works. I'm like 99% sure. I'll put a caution comment here because I do need to check that eventually, just to like be sure that's working correctly. So we're gonna put the date. I forgot to put this. I'm pretty certain this, I understand it correctly now and that it would work, but just to be sure, we'll put a caution comment and check it. Concerning how this import would work on client side relative to the fact that client pi sets changed attribute list.ss or cs to cs prior to this game pi file being imported, wouldn't that imply that whenever the SS or CS is accessed from this file thereafter, it would also reflect that change, i.e. it would return CS as well? I'm 25% sure this would be the case, but added this comment to ensure we checked it and verified this is the case, as we need it to be the case for proper functionality on CS, i.e. different behavior for what's it called, the multiple choice function, etc. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so that was really long-winded, but it is what it is. Okay, so if I'm correct, and we use change attribute list.ss or cs all over this file, which is cool. It's just kind of reinforcing what I thought I knew, but it gets, this is at the class level as opposed to like, well, this is inside of the def function, the def function, the init function, meaning that apparently this methodology works even when you access it in the context of a function, and we don't pass the object as a we don't pass the object as an argument or anything. Do we pass it? Do we access it via like global or anything like that? Do we ever say global? No, we don't use global. And part of my brain is just having trouble understanding how this works exactly. How it's accessing change attribute list.ss or cs from inside of this function without explicitly being passed the value. See, like this game state. So yeah, this is just a function that exists, and it considers this to be, I need that described to me, honestly. Let's word this. I didn't really want to do this, but I kind of need to understand how this works because it's just important as a programmer to understand how that works. So if we have file X that imports SS or CS, well, rather, that imports file Y, and file Y has a global var called SS or CS. It imports file Y, and file Y has a global var called SS or CS. And then in file Z, well, let's change the names here. So we have file X, which in this case would be game, and it imports file change attribute list, okay, and file and say file change attribute list has a global var called SS or CS. And then in file client, we import file game, and then in file client, well, let's say we set changed attribute list.ss or cs equal to cs, and then import file game, and then access changed attribute list.ss or cs inside of functions within the game file without passing the val in as an arg. How does this work? Damn, that was fast. Gemini is fast, boy. This works because of how Python handles modules and global variables. So, modules as namespaces. In Python, each file is treated as a module, creating its own namespace. You import a module, for example, import change attribute list. You're essentially importing its namespace into the current module. Global variables within modules. Variables defined at the top level of a module, outside any functions or classes, are considered global variables within that module's namespace. Modifying global variables. When you do change attribute list SS or CS is equal to CS in the client file, you are directly modifying the global variable SS or CS within the change attribute list module's namespace. Okay. Importing and accessing. When you then import game after modifying SS or CS, the game module gets a reference to the already modified value of SS or CS in the change attribute list module's namespace. This means that any functions within the game module that access SS or CS will see the new value CS. Right, okay, I don't need an example, but so what I really want to understand is how can you access global variables from other files that are imported into your working file. You access global variables from other files that are imported into your working file from functions within the working file without passing them in as an arg. I know it works, but how does it work? That's really the question I had. How to access global variables from imported modules within functions without exposing. You're right, it works, and it's important to understand how it works. So modules isn't it right? We got that. Global variables, got that. Accessing, got that. Well, when you import a module, you can access its global variables using the module, right? Scope and lookup. When a function in your working file tries to access a variable, Python. Oh, okay, it's because of the scope, right? Okay, gotcha. It looks in the local scope and it's not defined there. Then it looks in the enclosing scope, and in this case, there wouldn't be any enclosing function. And then the global scope of the current module. If still not found, it checks the global scope of the current module. If still not found, it checks the global scope of the current module, the file where the function is defined. And then it checks the built-in scope. Finally, it checks the built-in scope containing built-in functions and exceptions. Crucially, if the variable is not found in any of these scopes and you use the... Oh, so, okay. So then, if the variable is not found in any of those scopes, and you use the module name.variable syntax, which is what we do, Python then looks in the imported module's namespace. So it's looking, it's because of the scope rules. Gotcha. Big facts. I forgot. Well, you know what? I just actually didn't know there was that scope. I knew about local enclosing global and built in. I didn't know that there was also that it would check other modules. That's pretty cool. So long story short, we got this figured out now. So all we need to do to implement the fix is to go to def multiple choice function, alright, and then we have game one multiple choice text. Alright, so what we do here is we're gonna say if change attribute list dot ss or cs is equal to ss, then do this. But elif change attribute list dot ss or cs is equal to cs. If we're calling this from the client side, we would instead well, would we want this actually written here? Wouldn't we instead... Well, I mean, we could put it here. I mean, does it belong here, though? Well, it is convention for us to do it this way. We put the while this text active is equal to true. So, like, is it good Python practice to... I feel like it's kind of hiding what's going on, but we do that to reduce, you know, like, clutter on the client file and stuff. So everything's nice and concise here and kind of packed into those functions, lots of the stuff that happens in the background. Now, you could argue that maybe we should put the Oh, I know. Okay, yeah, I know exactly what we need to do and where it should be. I think what we should do is do the same exact thing that we do on the server side, but instead of passing, we would instead do game one dot draw window main. Well, in this case, would it be self? Well, no, because this is a static method. So we would do game one draw window main. And what this is going to do is whenever we call it from the client side, as long as they're making their choice, then we're going to continue to just draw the screen over and over again. And that should like keep the cursor, that should keep it from freezing, I think. Like, I'm pretty sure we have to keep drawing the screen. Because that's what we do on the client side. Like, you have to keep updating it. Do you? Well, yeah, you have to. You have to keep running draw window main because it has the event handler. And if like you click and the event doesn't get detected, I mean, that would go in the event queue. But at the moment that you clicked, how would it know that you just clicked? Because, and this is like, man, I hate dealing with this sort of thing. This Pygame stuff. God, it's it's a nightmare, honestly. It's relatively simple, but it's hard for me to remember exactly how it works. Like, do we have to call it over and over again? That's really the main question. Or could we just call it once and... Do you have to continuously recall pygame.display .update over for the cursor to visually move over the Pygame window and to detect if you click a certain part of the screen? Or would this work if you called it once before the event and once after, instead of constantly over and over via loop? That's really the question. You absolutely have to continuously recall Pygame display update within your main game loop for the cursor to visually move and for click detection to work correctly. Calling only once before and once after will not work as intended for interactive elements. Pygame to be used in event loop, usually a while loop, to handle user input. Okay, right. And update the game state. This loop runs continuously processing events and redrawing the screen. Pygame event get. This function retrieves events from the event queue. These events are generated by user actions, mouse movement, clicks, key presses. However, Pygame event get only retrieves the events that have occurred since the last time it was called. Since the last time it was called. Drawing operations like screen blit, Pygame draw rect do not directly update the screen. They only modify the surface representing the screen in memory. They only modify the surface representing the screen in memory. Pygame display flip update is what actually copies the contents of the screen surface to the physical display, making the changes visible. Why continuous updating is necessary? Mouse movement operating system generates mouse motion events as the mouse moves if you go. Gotcha. Okay, gotcha. Simulate are generated when the mouse buttons are pressed and released. If you don't continuously check for events, you'll miss these click events. The screen needs to be redrawn and updated each iteration of the game loop to reflect changes in the game state, including the position of the mouse cursor. Gotcha. Okay. I mean, that's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't like spamming something I didn't need to spam. So yeah, in this case, from client side, it's going to do game one multiple choice active is equal to true. It's going to do game one development domain. Yeah, so I think that this would work. And as soon as they make their choice, it's gonna break out of the draw window main. And then it's gonna check this logic. It's gonna say if multiple choice, select choice is equal to remote server. It's gonna do the things that it does, etc., etc. But we do need to have the screen drawn like well, none of this actually like has anything to do with visual changes to the game. So I think honestly this would like works. I don't think we would need to call draw window main again, you know? Within this little section. Yeah, I feel. Okay, but we actually, well, we do need to, well, it would happen again when we did this option. If we chose to start a new game. Yeah. Okay, so what we're gonna do real quick, since we only have 4 minutes left, that was kind of painful. But I got it figured out, I think. It's not easy. It's not easy, dude. But let's go over here. We're gonna crank up the server. I want to make sure I didn't break anything. We did modify a couple things. Okay, so we're gonna do elf local, and oops, mess that up. Let's do pi client. Okay, and then L. Alright, now let's see what we got going on here. Alright, so there it is, J Joshua. And let's go over to this dude, and he's gonna be Murfield double D. And there we go. He's gonna pick his card. Make sure everything's still working. Legit. Yep. So far, so good. And that is online. It's totally online. Albeit local. And it still works. Okay, I think if there was a problem, it would have shown itself by now. I did want to see the multiple choice one though, because I identified that. So let's just make sure that's not bugged. So that should pop up here in just a second. Yeah, there it is. Okay, yeah, so everything. I've never done this before. I've never tested this part of the game actually, like ever. Okay. True. That's a lot of logic. That's a lot of logic, baby. And it's gonna draw. See all this? It's all automated. Man. proud of myself. Not gonna lie. Alright, so moving forward. Okay. Say no to that. Just gonna put all that back in the hand. Okay. Cool. Alright, yeah, everything works. Awesome. Very great, very great. Okay, so we're gonna stop right here. So yeah, this should work now, up to this point. Actually, I'll just put that I stopped right here because I do need to review this. Yeah, so we'll just put that we stop right here. And the date, 1/17/25. Stopped here. Alright, so this is line 336 in client refactor. So let's go over here to devlog and put that. Stopped at line number 336 in client refactor. Yeah, baby. Okay, so it's 5:28, and we continue that. Or rather, we continued working on refactoring the beginning section of client refactor. I can't type at all. Yeah. Tested the game after changes, and everything seems to work as it did, which is cool. There goes our timer, and that's where we're stopping. We're actually gonna stage, commit, and push these changes. So let's change this to 5:29. We're just gonna put 5:30 here. Alright, now we're gonna put our time as 5:30 ratio. And so we did an hour and 9 minutes, so it's just an hour. So we did 2.25 hours today. And it is Friday, baby, so we're gonna take the rest of the day off. And I'm just tired, honestly. I'm tired, bro. I got good sleep last night. It was UPS, and then UPS fucking destroyed me today. Like, wrecked. UPS wrecked me. In less than 4 hours, I got straight smashed. I was so tired from work. I even got like a solid 8 hours of sleep, which I usually don't during the week, but I've been getting like 8 hours of sleep every single night this week, and I'm still... I thought that getting the 8 hours would, you know, really make a difference, and I'm sure it did. It made somewhat of a difference. I wasn't as like brain dead, but I just couldn't believe how really exhausted I still was. So we had made this commit. We did 14 files change, 20,000 insertions. Why is that? We created the JSON. We created the get size. We created test JSON, test DB. Oh, it's because of the test files? Was that really why? That's, yeah. Okay. This is, wow. Look at that. 10,000 lines, baby. Yeah, so that's where all those lines came from. So we can actually just straight up delete this. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, baby. Alright, let's actually like redo that. We're gonna get ahead. We're gonna recommit. Okay, so now we did 20,000 deletions. And that got rid of those test files. So then we can do git push canasta secondary. I didn't really want to commit all that. It might have been confusing to me in the future. So now we're gonna push to the remote repo, and there you go. It did its thing. Yeah, so now we're done. We're gonna go and we're gonna create a local backup. So let's do that. So we're gonna go to programming projects Canasta. We're gonna copy the little one. We're gonna go to backup. We're gonna delete the little one, and then we're gonna paste in the new one that we just copied from the actual project folder. We're gonna go into devlog, go to the end and verify it is indeed the correct data. So now we can go to the backup folder's name and change it to reflect today's date, which was the last time it was locally backed up. And there we go. We're done for the day. Happy Friday. Enjoy your weekend. What's it? MLK Day or something coming up on Monday. I don't really know exactly. I think it's MLK Day. I'm off work. Awesome. Don't have to be at work till Tuesday. So, yeah. Enjoy your weekend, guys. Be safe. And I'll see you next week. Maybe tomorrow. I don't know. Maybe I'll stream tomorrow. Maybe I'll stream Sunday. But